I want to throw out some smaller scale theories from the Alien movie franchise. Please keep in mind that Alien is a huge conglomerate that has included many video games over the years that a lot of fans consider to be canon with the movies. Due to time constraints, I'm unable to thoroughly research the games firsthand, so they will be left out for this video. First up, I want to tackle the Weyland family tree. When Prometheus went into production, I hear that the creative team decided to pretend that the Alien vs. Predator movies didn't happen. I consider all of the movies to be valid pieces of one massive story, so I'm going to attempt to reconcile the plot holes of Charles Weyland owning Weyland Industries, but Peter Weyland owning Weyland Corp. The easiest explanation is that Peter was the son of Charles Weyland. And as soon as Peter took over the company, he dismantled Weyland Industries to create Wayland Corp, his own creation that was outside of his father's shadow. Peter had a huge ego, and that type of move would be right up his alley. Plus, Wayland Corporation formed well after Charles' death, so it fits. So Charles Weyland begat Peter Weyland, who begat Meredith Vickers. And that's as far as we can connect, for now at least. Well, the video games also introduce a synthetic called Carl Weyland. He hides his robotic status and claims Charles is his ancestor. But again, I haven't got to play all of the video games to verify the information, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. I will say I've heard for years the debates about Vickers being a synthetic, but I don't think that's completely correct. Because Vickers shows a lot of emotions, goes into hypersleep with the crew, has an escape pod that a synthetic wouldn't need to survive, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. If Vickers is at all a robot, I believe she's more of a cyborg, where she started out as Peter Weyland's legitimate blood daughter, but had parts of her swapped out with robotic pieces somewhere along the way. Final point of this family tree, I want to talk about Michael Bishop in Alien 3. Bishop says he designed the Bishop model synthetics. It's not hard to see the blatant resemblance that Michael Bishop has to Charles Weyland. Actually, I believe they're the same actor, so there's definitely a connection to the Weyland family. Let me take this time to point out that in AVP, Charles Bishop Weyland was on the cover of a Scientific American magazine where he was named the pioneer of modern robotics. So is it possible that Charles made a robotic version of himself before he died? No, I don't think that's right, actually, because I'm trying to reconcile AVP with Prometheus, and in Peter Weyland's TED Talk set in 2023, he says that in a few years, we won't be able to tell robots apart from humans. So a synthetic like Bishop is well beyond the technology Charles would have had access to in 2004. And as far as we know, Vickers doesn't have any children, so Michael Bishop can't be Charles Weyland's great-grandson or the like. But I would bet money that Charles had his DNA samples stored multiple times over the years. So, while being bitter about having only a daughter, what if Peter instructed Wayland Corp to start working on cloning technology? Now, Peter is arrogant, so I'd imagine he'd give his own DNA to be cloned. But what if those samples got corrupted or ran out before they perfected the cloning process? Well, the next best thing would be to use the DNA samples that Charles had stored away. Judging by the process we see in Alien Resurrection, it seems like cloning a Wayland would have taken decades to get it all right and functioning. But feasibly, it could explain Michael Bishop being a clone of Charles Bishop Weyland. And since Charles was a brilliant robotics engineer, creating the Bishop synthetics would have been the perfect task for his cloned brain to do. Okay, moving away from the Weyland family now. I've heard a lot of jokes over the years at how primitive the Nostromo is compared to Prometheus. I mean, the movies were filmed 33 years apart, So obviously, visual effects have greatly improved in that amount of time, but I want to offer up an alternative idea. The Prometheus was a state-of-the-art ship meant to go deeper into space than humans had currently traveled to. And it was a research vessel that was harboring Peter Weyland, the company founder. Not to mention his daughter was on board too. So the Prometheus had all the bells and whistles imaginable, along with the best tech out there. Meanwhile, the Nostromo was a simple workship, designed to transport ore and keep the crew barely alive. So the Nostromo was not state-of-the-art. I doubt Weyland-Yutani wanted to provide fancy technology to their employees, who should either be in hypersleep or working. They just gave them low-end tech that they needed to function. The military is also notorious about not updating their technology for their soldiers, so the same concept explains why the colonial marines and aliens had such old equipment too. I also want to address the beginning of Alien 3, where Ripley and her deceased companions crash land after facehuggers attack them during hypersleep. I've always been so suspicious as to how the stupid things got on board in the first place. I mean, it is a recurring thing that an alien always gets onto the escape vehicle, but facehuggers only come out of their eggs when they sense a life form nearby. They don't really hatch early and then lurk around in the shadows waiting for the opportune moment to strike. So it doesn't make a lot of sense for any to be on board this ship and wait so long to attack, unless Carter J. Burke, prior to his demise, had snuck some eggs onto the ship, hoping to sneak them past quarantine in that state. Or maybe Burke was making one last play to let a chestburster gestate in a human host while on the way back to Earth. I'm not sure which scenario is accurate, but I fully believe that Burke set up this sabotage. True, the alien queen got on board the escape vehicle, but the queen didn't have her egg sac when she came on board, and thereby she couldn't have laid eggs on that ship. Since she was in a defensive attack mode, I also really doubt that she had the foresight to take some eggs with her just in case. The queen was coming to fight. The humans weren't terraformed to the wall, they weren't contained, so the queen would have known that bringing her eggs with her would have endangered her babies, meaning Burke has to be the source of this villainy. Finally, I want to throw out a thought on alien resurrection. The science in that movie was not very well thought out. For instance, we're shown the queen alien is laying eggs, and the government is using those eggs to produce more aliens. Then, at the end, the queen gives birth with a womb? How and why would the queen alien be able to both lay eggs and give live birth? It's psychotic! But I choose to believe that this insanity is from a lack of information and not poor writing or directing, because theorizing is more productive than complaining. So if we look back to the room where Ripley found the 7 other failed clones of herself, we see that one of them was being kept alive on a table, and she had a similar incision on her chest that Ripley number 8 also had. It was the spot where they removed the alien that Ripley had been carrying. Then, does that mean there were 2 queens on that vessel? I think that's very possible, and one was laying eggs, while the other had her DNA scrambled up, like most of the Ripley clones, which gave the second alien queen the deformity of a womb. See, we can have fun with the movies, use critical thinking, fix plot holes, and not have to hate on the films. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed enough to like, subscribe, and share this video. I've also got a lot of other videos on my channel that you are fully encouraged to go check out. Plus, you can find me on Facebook at Say Halo Goodbye, which is my gamer tag, or Twitter at _Fanily.